Aloha, my name is Billy F. Schultz. I'm a student with the Institute of Clinical Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine. I'm doing my presentation on Moxibustion, a scientific perspective, and these were done for Introductory Herbology and Chemistry. The objective is to demonstrate an understanding of Moxibustion from a scientific perspective and its uses, primarily in traditional Chinese medicine, to include current research and clinical applications of the herb. And here's my references, with my main reference being Moxibustion, a modern clinical handbook. And here's the overview of the presentation. We'll go over the introduction, botanical features of the mugwort plant, which moxa comes from, periodic table, which will go over the primary elements, and then we'll go on the compounds, and those are the compounds that make up moxa. Physical reactions, and this is how mugwort is processed into moxa for clinical application. Chemical reactions, and it's going to be a combustible reaction because moxa is burned. Clinical applications of burning moxa, and conclusion. Introduction. Moxibustion is a traditional Chinese medicinal treatment over 1,000 years old. It involves the burning of moxa wool and sticks to facilitate healing. Moxa comes from the herb mugwort. Mugwort is a small, spongy plant found throughout Europe, Asia, Africa, North America, and even here in Hawaii. The Latin name for mugwort is Artemisia vulgaris. Here's a sketch of the mugwort plant, and we'll go over some of the botanical features. The taxonomic group type is herbaceous perennial, and the family is Asteraceae. The habitat, anthropogenic, mostly found in meadows and fields. And the morphology, leaf type, leaves are simple. Leaf arrangement, alternate. Leaf blade edge of the leaf blade has lobes or has both teeth and lobes. Flower type, lower head has disc flowers only and lacks strap-shaped flowers. Tuft or plume on fruit, no plume, or the plume is made of scales on crown, and the rim and the leaf blade length is 20 to 120 millimeters. Periodic table, here are the primary mugwort elements. They are hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. And like I said, mugwort contains hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, which allows it to facilitate medicinal care by burning hot. And the primary elements and compounds, and again we went over hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen. And then here's the compounds, Cinol, or the primary compounds of Cinol, and L-Thujone. Mugwort contains hydrogen, carbon, and oxygen, again, which allows it to facilitate medicinal care by burning slow. And this is the physical reaction. This is going from mugwort to moxa woolen sticks. And here we have dried mugwort, and then it's processed to moxa wool and further processed to moxa sticks. Here's the compound, Cinol, and that has 10 carbon atoms, 17 hydrogen atoms, 1 oxygen atom, and an additional hydrogen atom. And L-Thujone, which has 10 carbon atoms, 18 hydrogen atoms, and 1 oxygen atom. And the above chemical compounds are the active essential oils in mugwort. Since it's a physical reaction, it still retains its chemical properties when it gets processed into moxa wool and sticks. So Cinol still remains, the L-Thujone still remains, and the compounds still remain. They're just in different physical form. And the chemical reaction, when we burn moxa, it's a combustible reaction, and we call it moxibustion. And the reactants, of course, are the primary compounds plus oxygen, because we need oxygen to burn, and then the products, of course, are carbon dioxide and water, and some other things we'll go over. Okay, so here is the compounds here's the atoms that make up the compounds for Cinol, and then the atoms that make up the compounds for L-Thujone, and of course oxygen to allow it to burn. And then here's the products after it burns, and you see that all the atoms remain. They are just in different, they just became different compounds, different products. There, Moxibustion. Take note that you don't see too many waste products coming from there, so very little ash. Instead, most of the things are burned up, as you saw in our combustible reaction. But there are minute ashes that do fall from the moxa sticks. It remains Minute ash that remains is formed from other components, and these are resin, methanol, acetone, tannin, potassium chloride, iron, magnesium, vitamins A, B, C, and D in the moxa, and they cannot burn, remain solid. So these are the little ashes that come off of that. But the primary compounds become carbon dioxide, which is a gas, and water, which because it's a combustible reaction, just becomes vapor. And here's the clinical applications of moxa. There's the moxa stick. Moxa applied to the needles, or acupuncture needles, and then moxa applied directly to the meridians or acupoints. The taste is bitter. The smell is acrid. The temperature warm, obviously. Dosage 2 to 9 grams in decoction, and so that's, I think, when they make a herbal formula for it, but in this case, it doesn't really apply to the sticks or applying to the skin or even the needles. And the organs, and they affect the liver, spleen, and kidney channels. And then here's a whole list of things that moxibustion treats. Let me just go over a couple of them: nosebleeds, menstrual disorders, uterine bleeding, period pain, prolonged dysentery, restless fetus, abdominal vaginal discharge, eczema, sores, and even ringworm. So moxa treats a lot. And here's my conclusion. I demonstrated an understanding of moxibustion from a scientific perspective and its uses primarily in traditional Chinese medicine to include current research and clinical applications of the herb. Mahalo.